We've always had a separation of church and state. It's been very important.
The staunchest defenders for the separation of church and state throughout American history were Protestant Christians, Baptists in particular, right? I mean, the letter Jefferson writes where he first uses that phrase, a wall of separation between church and state, was to the Danbury Baptists. These Protestants were fleeing Europe as religious minorities. Kind of essential to the founding of this country was religious freedom. And so those Christians understood that once the government starts preaching your religion, starts making decisions about your faith, that doesn't lead anywhere good. We should be very suspicious of the state usurping the role of pastors and Sunday school teachers. If you want to deepen your faith, we have churches on every street corner. A lot of them don't have a lot of people in them. This, again, is giving Christianity and religious people broadly a bad name. Because this is what people think about religious people, that we're more interested in imposing our faith or our values or our beliefs on others instead of living it out ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, I look across my church on Sunday mornings and I see a lot of gray hair. I worry about the future of my church, of my faith in this country.
What do you think that's about?
I think a lot of it is well justified because organized religion has done a lot of damage to people. Too many churches, too many faith leaders have abused that trust. A lot of Gen Z, a lot of my fellow millennials, when they hear me talking about my faith and how it informs my public service, they're like, I've never heard of this kind of Christianity, right? Like I was told if you wanted to be a Christian, you had to hate gay people. If you wanted to be a Christian, you had to want to control women, reject science. And so when Gen Z and when millennials were faced with that choice, it was a pretty easy choice for them. They chose their gay friends, they chose women's rights, they chose believing in science. And that, in my opinion, was always a false choice. And in fact, a lot of those positions that I just mentioned are contrary to biblical values, to the teachings of Jesus.
Where does this rejection of gay rights come from?
Well, I think broadly we should say that using religion to control the people is a tale as old as time. Issue of homosexuality in particular, something Jesus never talks about.
Is it in the Old Testament?
In the Old Testament, there is a prohibition against men lying with other men.
Right.
We're not sure exactly what it means. And if we're taking it just literally, does that mean that we're also prohibiting same-sex relationships between women? Right? Because that's not prohibited in that called an abomination. This punishment can sometimes be death. And this is true of eating certain foods, of planting two different crops next to each other.
Wearing two different types of cloth.
Sure. He simplified it into two commandments, love God and love neighbor. Those are the only two commandments that we Christians should keep our focus on. Jesus regularly got into conflicts with the religious authorities because he is rejecting legalism and embracing the spirit of the law, which is loving your neighbor as yourself. And so in our modern context, that should mean loving our gay neighbors as ourselves. You know, when I'm looking at the teachings of Jesus, I think it's very clear how we should treat those who are different, those who are left out. I mean, the word homosexuality wasn't even invented until the 19th century. If this was something really was central to Jesus's ministry, I would think he would have said something about it, right? We have 4 Gospels, tons of teachings from Jesus, and none of them are about this. So I get suspicious when anybody, a televangelist or a politician, tells me that something is central to my faith when Jesus never talks about it. To me, that should ring alarm bells as to what is the agenda here. If we're looking at the last 40, 50 years, the religious right has made a concerted effort to make homosexuality and abortion the 2 biggest issues for Christians. The Southern Baptist Convention was pro-choice until the late 1970s. So this idea that to be a Christian means you have to be anti-gay and anti-abortion, there really is no historical, theological, biblical basis for that opinion.